Laingsburg, Michigan.
I appreciate you guys.
So I have a bit of a slideshow to do. Hopefully you all are going to be able to see this. Amy? Kelly?
I'm right here.
Okay.
I gotta find my purse. Let's see if we can find that. But go ahead.
Just go, okay. So this next Hall of Fame inductee pretty much came out of the womb dreaming about being an entrepreneur. And I have this really cute baby picture of this next inductee, which has not come up on the screen, but basically he knew from a young age that he was going to own his own business one day. Now, I'm not sure he knew it would be two that he would own, but his family can attest that he has always dreamed big. The next slide is going to show, if it comes up, that I want to share with you something that you might not know about this inductee. He does have a learning disability. One that was not even identified when he was in K through 12. He was often called names, not only by fellow students, but by his teachers. He was told that he would never make anything out of his life, and school was hard, and it was not a fun place for him to be. But he had one person in his corner, and it was his mother. And she would push him forward, she would encourage him, and she would do everything for him to help him learn and to believe in himself. And this learning disability that he had, we know today as dyslexia. And this inductee has a severe form of dyslexia. It's very difficult for him to read and to write. And he will not have any problem telling you about this dyslexia. And it's actually, he's kind of proud that he has it. Because he's an amazing, amazing designer, engineer, and fabricator. But there's another thing about this person. Oops, that's not quite the right slide, but we'll get there. Okay. Well, I know I got to catch up to it. We sort of need to slow it down. Okay. Is he excelled in sports in school? As a matter of fact, he made All-State. So if me being up here is not giving away who our inductee is, this will. It's Ed Carpenter. He went on to graduate from high school and received a 2-year certificate from Ferris, and he actually made the dean's list. And if you get a chance tonight, you should ask him the story behind that. It's pretty funny. Then there's Liskey's. Ed went to work for George Liskey in 1962, and he bought it from him in 1972. Can you imagine that in 10 years? He bought a business. He never changed the name of that business because he couldn't afford a new sign. So he kept it. And over the years, he became known as Mr. Liskey. He also has some other nicknames as well, and you're more than welcome to use them. There's Bucky, there's Jerry, and there's a few of my favorite, but I won't share those. His family calls him Jerry. And the Bucky the name came from his football days. But I also want to tell you a little bit about him being a political activist. There was a law written in 1976 to regulate garages. And as you can imagine, any of us don't like to have politicians regulate us, right? Ed was the president of the Automotive Service Council, and he brought together all the garages, and especially the tow truck drivers, to protest this law. And I don't know how many of you were around in 76 in Lansing, but this man brought almost every tow truck driver and their tow trucks to Lansing to protest this law. Now, can you imagine that? What are you going to do if there's an accident in your town, Mr. Police Officer? You don't have a tow truck. And Ed tried to warn the police in Lansing that this was coming, and they didn't believe him. Till they started receiving phone calls that all of a sudden all these tow trucks are coming down the highway, and they weren't sure what they were going to do when the accident started happening. Well, they got their attention. And they actually won in the lower courts. Unfortunately, they didn't win in the higher courts. But if you ask Ed today, he will tell you that he thought the law ended up being a good thing for the industry. Now there's another really tough part that happened. Ed owns this business called Whiskey's. And the city of Lansing decided to condemn him. Not exactly what Ed wanted to have happen to his business, not because he did anything wrong, but because they wanted to bring a ballpark in. Can you imagine that? Not only did he, let me tell you how he found out about it. He woke up one morning, went to work, and read the newspaper, and it said, Liskey's, along with a list of other businesses, are being condemned. And then the city decided not to pay him what they should for his business. They took him, he had to take him to court to get what he owed, what they owed him for his business. So there's this long, drawn out court battle to get what was rightfully his. He had to save his business. He had to buy another place for his business. He wanted to stay downtown Lansing. They got through all of that. And then, in the end, he had to go to an auction of his old business to buy all his equipment back from the city, to move it across the street where he ended up buying the new business building to start a business he already owned that the city took away from him for a ballpark. But Ed, being who Ed is, he supported the ballpark. As a matter of fact, he became a ticket season holder. He went to every game when that ballpark opened up, and that talks to you about the character of this man. So Liskey, today, and when Ed began it, has a motto. There's no substitute for quality. And that's not just a motto, that's a business motto. And about what now, Jerry, 10 years? 11 years? Ed turned the business over to our son, Jerry. Jerry, stand up. And they run it for us today. And they're doing a fantastic job. And that allows Ed to run the farm. In 1996, Ed won the Business Man of the Year award in Lansing. Now, I got a feeling this may be making up for that condemnation process, but I don't know. Sort of the timing might be there. But regardless, he deserved it. And it really was a bright light at the end of that terrible process. So now, let's talk about the farmers. And I'm sorry that this slideshow is not kind of going with what I was doing, but Ed decided that he was going to want to get back to his roots. His family, who are all sitting up here at this table, his two brothers and his sister is not here with us, but they all grew up on a farm. So in 1985, he decided to buy a farm to take the stress away of running this business. So he bought what is Peacock Road Tree Farm. And there's a slide up here somewhere that shows you what it was. And it was basically a bunch of land with a house and a couple barns. And he's pretty much grown it into what it is today. But upon showing it to a friend who was an old Christmas tree grower, that friend took his pipe, banged it on his chest, and said, I'm going to show you the Christmas tree business. Personally, I can tell you I really regret that that man did that. But that's how we got into the Christmas tree business. So there's a slide here that will show you that Ed starts every day out with a morning coffee session. That usually starts with our animal sitting in his lap, sipping coffee, and probably bringing in some of the staff to talk about what we're going to do here. And those morning coffee sessions usually start with, what are we going to improve on the farm? And it can end up with building. Could be the roller slide. It could be us adding the goat walk. It could be us adding anything to the farm, and that usually starts with the morning coffee session. But the really cool things that happen on the farm are the thinking sessions. And those usually happen on our bridge that goes over Vermilion Creek, with that in his truck, the air conditioning blasting, him putting the seat back, hat over his head, and they last about 15 minutes. You all get what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'm sure some of you take them too. And then out of that, he comes up and he makes sure everybody's working and we're doing it right. And then about an hour later, we can usually find him back at the bridge. He does take those naps, they're power naps. Okay, all kidding aside, folks. Ed is a man of dreams, and he operates like the Energizer Bunny. What fills his soul is seeing people making memories and the smiles on people's faces. I can tell you that receiving this award tonight is an honor that he never expected. Being honored by his peers is another one of those soul-filling moments. Ed, will you please join me? I'm honored to give it to my husband, Ed Carpenter, the MCTA Hall of Fame Award for your contribution to the association and the Christmas tree industry. I love you, honey.
I don't deserve this. I'm probably the worst tree grower here. Come out look at my trees. On the way down here, now it makes sense. She says, what do you think's to be the Hall of Fame guy?
I did not say that.
And I said, some old fart. So I guess we're in there. It has been a huge pleasure. I can't believe that Bonnie and John, you guys, will you everybody come here to support me? These are my neighbors. Roy right there, he's going to get married at the farm next week.
10 days! 10 days!
But Dinah, I got to be honest, without you, we wouldn't be where we're at. So, you deserve it. We're going to put your name on it too. It has been a wonderful career. The garage business was cool. And everything, not everything she said was true, but we went through a lot. We did go through a lot of challenges with the combination. We had a fire, and I don't know, getting a special use permit for the farm. And some of the neighbors hate us because we bring a lot of traffic in, but because of our area and my competition, Mel Kelling, who would like to be his next door neighbor? One of the best tree farmers in the nation, but we're friends, and we kind of went to the agritourism side of the business, and I want to give you a little story how it started. I was about 40, and I used to ride a motorcycle a lot, going through the countryside on a Sunday morning, raised on a small farm, watching farmers do their thing, and I thought, I think I'm missing life. Well, then John Knowles, he used to be a member here. I don't think anybody here remembers him. It was quite a while ago. Anyways, I went over one day, he was out in the yard, and he says, he was in his yard, and I go over and say, John, I think I'm going to buy a farm. He took his pipe and shook it at me. He says, let me show you the tree business. So that's why we're in the tree business. And then I bought the farm in 1985. 94 was the first year we had a tree sale. A local teacher came out, bought a tree, came up and said, hey, Ed, can I bring my class out for a tour? So we did that little wagon ride for and that's grown into about 12,000 students of business a year. I think we're good, but oh man, look at this place. Wow, makes the. So anyways, then one man, maybe 25 years ago, Jeff worked for me, came up and says, Ed, I'm going to get married in 2 weeks, going to use your old barn. It was all trashed. He picked it up, set straw bales around, and we did that wedding, and now we're doing 50 weddings a year. Thanks to Diana, she got me into it. You know, here, let me tell you what a wife can do. She starts the wedding business, right? And it's the last thing in the world on my mind, period. And she says, you know, I've decided I'm going to go to seminary and become a minister, and you're going to have to run the weddings. But it ended up being fun. It's very profitable, and we have a good time with it. So now we're doing the 50 weddings a year, and that's kind of the history of the farm. And it's kind of, I look around, and all my neighbors are here. I can't believe this. I think I want to end by talking to the newbies, the people that are just starting. There's nothing like it, guys. And I know when you're just starting, you're going to scratch your head and say, what the hell are we doing? We're spending all this money. We ain't taking none in. It's going to be 8-10 years. What are we up to? When you're out shearing that tree and the bees are biting you and you're sweating, just sit down and look at that tree and say, whose family is going to enjoy this tree? The best day of their life for the year is under that tree.
Yes.
Yeah. Good luck, newbies. It's all worth it at the end, but I know there's time you say, oh, I think corn and soybeans would be easier. But to be on this with Mel Kellingan, Lori Kellingan, Steve Andrew, and even Mike Gwynn, and all the people that are of the Hall of Fame guys, it is really such an honor. I'm gonna close with a saying that I wish the tree industry would pick up. It came from Frank and Frank, how used to be his last name? Frank Genovese. Kathy's one of my best friends. Christmas tree. Real farmers feed are nutritional. Tree farmers feed our soul.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. And if you haven't had a chance to visit this farm, especially for those new folks, go visit. It's great. You'll find tractors made into trains and everything in between. Last introducer.